Welcome to my acrylic painting channel. I'm Karen Rice. I'm going to be painting a step-by-step wildflowers acrylic painting using just 3 primary colours and some white acrylic paint. So here are the materials I'm using. A full list of these can be found in the description below. Just click show more on the left hand side of the video or on the bottom right hand side, the little triangle, depending on what sort of device you are on. There are also Amazon links there if you'd like to purchase any of the materials. I'm using a 12 by 10 inch canvas board, but you could use acrylic paper or a box canvas, whatever you can get your hands on. There I've got my 3 primary colours. Choose whichever primary colours you like. I've got some flat brushes, palette knife. I've got a little tube of Winsor & Newton's Flesh Tint, but you can use any sort of background colour, my water pot and my own homemade Stay Wet palette. I'm starting off to put a base on the canvas board and I'm just squeezing out some little blobs of this flesh coloured paint. I thought it was quite a nice background colour, but it's just to make this white background less intimidating, and I'm using a flat brush just to blend all of this colour to get rid of all the white canvas underneath. Once you finish painting your background, let it dry naturally, or you can give it a blow dry before you start the next stage. Here's my retarder. I'm just going to squeeze that out along with my 3 primary colours and the white acrylic paint as well. What's good about a Stay Wet palette is it keeps your acrylics from drying out. So what I'm doing now is I'm just mixing up a kind of a violet-y sort of colour. That's the pink and the blue with a touch of white. And just when you look at that reference photograph there, I'm just putting in those kind of sort of fuzzy shapes that are in the background, those distant wildflowers. So I'm using the flat brush, just blending that in. Now the sort of sky area in this photograph is quite pale, so I'm just using white on its own, but because the acrylic paint's wet and it's got some retarder in it, it's easier to blend. Retarder's really good. It stops the acrylic paints from drying out too quickly. So just blending that as you go, just enjoying it actually, because this first stage is kind of almost a loosening up stage. I've just added a little bit of pink to my white there just to create some more of that pinky white flowers that are sort of out of focus in the distance. And I'm kind of working my way down to the middle and then kind of working my way down to the bottom, mixing and blending as I go. I've just mixed up some light green there, that's the yellow with a touch of blue, and I'm just using that flat brush and painting this on the damp background. I don't mind too much blending the pale pink, but if it bothers you, just give it a quick blow dry and you can continue on. So I'm just really putting some, if you look at the reference photograph, there's sort of nice light coloured grasses, but also there's some dark tones as well. So I'm going to mix them up a little bit. So I've just added a touch more blue there just to put a darker green on. I'm using my small round brush now and I'm just painting in some thin stems. If you're not comfortable painting them with a brush, you could actually print them on with a palette knife, which I will do sort of more towards the end of the painting. You can also use a rigger or a liner brush as well. The great thing about acrylics, if it goes wrong at this stage, now just to say my background is actually dry, but if it goes wrong, just put some water on the mark and then just wipe it off with some kitchen towel, because it'll come off quite easy. So you just sort of just dilute it first and then pull it off, but it works quite well. So I'm going to paint the wildflowers now, and I'm just using pink and white with the small round brush, and basically just lots of dots. And I'm going to do a medium tone, add a little bit more white to it to make it a bit lighter, and to make it a bit darker, add a little bit of pink and a touch of blue, and just have fun creating these little dots. The reason why I painted the stems first, because it's easier to paint around them. It's harder to paint the stems up to the wildflowers, I found. So it's a good little tip for you there. So I hope you enjoy this. I don't know if you noticed, but I was getting a little bit more freed up and making a lot more random marks. The reference photograph is really unclear, really. It's quite sort of blurry, but in a way that's a good thing because it allows you the freedom not to copy what's in front of you, but to interpret and to create more of an impressionistic painting, which I love. So I'm just sort of applying this here and there, you know, mixing up, sort of always make sure you've got plenty of paint on your brush. Keep sort of reloading the brush to make sure you're putting lots of paint on there. Don't let your brush dry out. One of the things I love about acrylic painting is if you don't like something, you can remove it by putting paint over the top. And what I'm doing is I'm actually using my fingertips, but you can use a brush obviously, but I'm just sort of getting rid of that sort of purpley flower there because it was coming forward too much and it was bothering me a little bit. So I just got a little bit of white paint and I'm just sort of blending it away. And while it's still a little bit damp, I'm just going to paint some more little pink wildflowers on top. And what I'm doing here is I'm just putting a few little darks in here and there. And if you look at the photograph, there are some of those little wildflowers that have got some little dark accents on them. So I'm just using a bit of blue and pink mixed together to create that colour. And I'm just, well, really now I'm getting to a stage in the painting, and this is what I really try to instill in my students, to really sort of find their own sort of selves in their painting, not to just copy slavishly. So I'm just sort of letting go here, looking at the photograph, but really sort of painting from my imagination with that sort of spurring me on, as it were. So I'm just sort of putting these final sort of marks with the wildflowers here. In acrylics, traditionally you work dark to light. In this instance, with this flower painting here, I've kind of let myself go a bit. I've not sort of obeyed the rules as much. I've just watered down my acrylics there, and I'm spattering a sort of a very light pink shade just to give a little bit of texture. And as I said earlier in the video, you can use a palette knife to create those sort of very thin stems, and what I'm doing here is literally printing with this very large sort of spatula sort of palette knife, which is very handy. I just got it in a little set, but you know, even use a plastic store card cut up, you could do this also. And the colour I'm using is the pink and the blue to create this very dark accent colour, just to really pop it against that background, and it really gives it a little bit of structure as well. And I'm just putting a few lighter stems in just to finish off my painting. I really hope you enjoyed this step-by-step acrylic painting tutorial of these beautiful wildflowers. If you would like to see more videos like this, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and you'll get updates of my latest videos. If you have any comments or questions, please put them in the comments section below. I would love to hear from you. Thank you again for watching. Happy painting. Bye for now.